Welcome to The Knock, a podcast where we dive into real stories of real people who've experienced life before Christ and the transformation that comes when they answer the knock. Whether you're rooted in faith, feeling distant, or still unsure what you believe, our prayer is that these conversations stir something in you. Every story we share points back to the same truth. When you open the door, everything changes. Let's get into it. All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of The Knock Podcast. Super excited today. We started the morning off with a bang. Got to have some fellowship and a great breakfast listening to Joe Gibb, 3-time Super Bowl winner, talk about faith and football, and kind of combine the two, which was awesome. But I'm here with my little brother Gerrard. What's up?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Yeah, definitely felt like my cup was filled up this morning with the Joe Gibbs event, and then just the conversation that we had before this even started. I mean, I'm excited for today.
Awesome. And I'd like to introduce very special guest, Nick Tallo. He is the pastor of Two Rivers Church, a church that Gerrard and I both attend. Nick, how you doing?
I'm awesome, man. I'm honored to be here. I'm excited to be here. I really am. This is pretty cool, guys. This is really cool. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So if you're listening in, I mean, the big thing that we're doing, we're in sales, we're in real estate. And, we see a lot of times that podcasts are usually part of some sort of sales funnel. And what we like to say is, dude, the only thing we're selling is Jesus. We're not selling anything else. So, Nick, why don't you go ahead and tell folks a little bit about who you are?
Yeah. So I am Nick Tallo, as you just said, the pastor at Two Rivers Church, one of the pastors at Two Rivers Church, and been married. We celebrated, my wife and I, her name is Amy, our 20th year anniversary last week, which was awesome. Yeah, we have 4 kids. We have Mason, who's 18, getting ready to go off to college. We have Ava, who is 15. We have Brady, who is 10, and we have JC, the caboose, holding up the rear there as 7-year-old JC. Yeah, so boy, girl, which is
nice.
Been quite the adventure. We call them part 1 and part 2, essentially.
Yeah, I was going to say, you spread them out pretty.
We did,
pretty good,
yeah. I don't know if that was quite intentional, but that's just the way it played out. So,
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I would imagine. So I run into Nick every once in a while. We're all kind of in the O'Fallon, Wentzville kind of area. You live in Wentzville, right?
I do. Yes.
Yeah. So I would imagine when I ran into you on the soccer field, we were both coaching. You were coaching your 6-year-old at the time.
So it was at one point it was both of them. And then JC, I think she only lasted 1 season, which we're okay with that. And Brady, who's the 10-year-old, probably would have been, I don't know what field you were on, but I guess so. JC at that point or Brady, one of them. Yeah. I coached both their teams, so.
Yeah, I saw you. That's when you called me Gerrard. You're yelling my brother's name. So Nick sometimes will tend to get us mixed up a little bit, but it's all good.
Just so everybody knows, I'm the better looking brother. So.
Yeah, that's not how I figure out who you guys are now, but
I would hope not.
I tell them I either have to see them with their spouses or I have to see them together to know which one's which.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
There you go. Well, Nick, why don't you kind of start, basically as we're having this conversation, we want to hear about maybe the time that you either were, initially introduced to Christ, or maybe you fell away and you kind of had that reinvigoration, that kind of calling that got you back into the faith. So let's talk about a little bit before the knock actually happened.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
great.
Some of the things you were going through, experiencing, all that.
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town. Those of you that are around this area, it's Warrenton, Missouri. Those of you that are listening, maybe not from around the St. Charles County or even in Missouri, it's about, what do you guys say, 25 minutes west on Highway 70 from where we're sitting right now. Small town. When I was growing up, it was about 4,000 people. I think my graduating class was about 180 people. Geez. So not super small, but not big. By any means. And I grew up in a great family. I always say it this way. I had everything I think a young boy could want out of life. I had great, loving parents still to this day, married parents, 2 older brothers. Didn't always get along with them, but they weren't like horrible to me.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. I felt like I was a cool kid in school. I excelled in some sports. Hockey was my sport. And I just had a pretty good life, a pretty good upbringing. Even looking back now, I don't really have any complaints on how I got brought up. I'm the youngest of those 3 boys. So by the time I was in Catholic school, My oldest brother went through 8th grade, and then that's all the school went to in our hometown. And then he got sent over to public. My brother made it to like 4th grade and then got sent over to public. And at that point, I was in 1st grade and got sent over to public. I'd say at that point is where we stopped going to Catholic, they call it mass or church or service on a regular basis. We kind of just go on the holidays. But I say I went enough to have what I would call the bigger pieces of the puzzle, at least to hear about those. Jesus was born of a virgin. He lived the perfect life. He died for my sins. He was buried, rose on the 3rd day. However, at any point you would have asked me up until between my sophomore and junior year of college what any of that meant, I would have looked at you and said I had no clue. And I probably would have told you I don't really care to know either. So I would have probably been dubbed, now looking back, I didn't know this, as maybe an agnostic. I don't think I would have ever denounced God up to the point of being saved and converting to Christianity. I just didn't really have an interest. And again, understanding my upbringing, you can see why I didn't really feel there was a need for God or quote-unquote religion. So that's it to that point.
Yeah. So this is not to paint a negative picture about any denomination, but I have heard that story, and maybe it's because of the educational piece that like Catholic schools are fairly prominent in the St. Louis area.
Yeah.
Did that have anything to do with it? Was it the way that was structured? Like going to that school and maybe it was kind of like what was that like?
Did they have any part of my conversion or part of like not being interested?
Yeah, not being interested.
I don't think so, because again, I wasn't as inundated as I do hear that story a lot. That it was shoved down their throat, and some of that could be true. I think part of it is just in most Catholic schools, from what I understand, you do go every single morning to service, right? And then you sometimes have a religion class on top of that. So I can't speak from experience too much from that because I was out by 1st grade. I don't even really have that much of a recollection of that. Yeah. I didn't feel like it was shoved down my throat. But I've also heard that from, and I know you said you're not knocking on denominations, and I love that. I absolutely love that. I'm not here to do that with Catholicism as well, but I hear that from other denominations, people that are in the Baptist there, right? Yeah. Where they were there Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. But for me, no, that had nothing to do with it. Mine just had everything to do with, man, I don't see any need for it. I have no desire for it. From the kids that I knew that were Christians, which I didn't even know if I knew what that meant back then. Some of them, I hate to say this now, just where I was with pride and everything, they were kind of the dorkier kids and a little bit sheltered in that regard. Yeah. And I just didn't, I saw that and saw my life and I'm like, man, my life seems way better than their life, right? Why would I want anything other than what I have?
Yeah. We've actually had that exact conversation on this podcast. Like, growing up, whether it be on the football team, on the football field, in sports, and it's not because of their faith, right? Like we obviously know that now, but we have the same experience. It's like I don't necessarily want to be like that guy. Over there.
Right,
and then you just associate faith to them, and then and that's obviously not correct,
right?
But I think that was a big part of why we kind of fell away growing up as well.
Yeah, the perception was like the Christian kids or just the Christians that we were around, they seemed soft. That was the perception.
Good word,
not to be too blunt about it, but that's what we thought. And obviously, the more we've gone into it, the more we've learned that's definitely not the case.
It's the opposite.
Yeah, it's definitely the opposite.
That's a great point. I was going to say that it takes a lot of strength to, especially in today's world. It wasn't as I guess taboo to say you're a Christian, other than would have been like, oh, okay, you're kind of dorky, right? Just from saying that alone. Yeah. But in today's world, to walk out your faith within the public schools is, I mean, you said it best. It's the opposite. It takes a lot of strength and a lot of boldness. So
it does.
And just the concept of dying to self on a daily basis. Yeah, probably one of the hardest things I've had to do as a Christian.
Absolutely.
Yeah, not football, not lifting weights.
Nope,
definitely that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Nick, I appreciate the beginning of your story. So when can you describe the time that like Jesus knocked on that door?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started dating my now wife of 20 years, our senior year in high school. We were actually pretty cool in the same second grade class.
Nice.
And we started becoming friends in high school. And she has a faith background. She grew up at a Baptist church, a small little Baptist church in Warrenton, gave her life to Christ. I think she was like 7. Her parents did divorce, though, at 16, and it kind of rocked her faith.
Yeah.
We started dating her senior year. I was a partier. I brought her into the party scene and all the things that come along with that. I'll just leave it at that. And she went to Mizzou, and then I went to Lindenwood on a hockey scholarship. She went to Mizzou. We were supposed to both go to Mizzou. I ended up getting a scholarship and going to Lindenwood. I think it was good for us because we were separated. So when we did spend the time together, it was just that much more meaningful. Yeah. And every once in a while, we'd meet back in Warrenton. So for those of you, again, that don't know the geography here of Missouri, that was about halfway between where I went to school and she went to school. So we'd meet up in our hometown. I'd stay with my parents. She'd stay with hers. And man, I don't know, guys, maybe a handful of times I'd go to the small little Baptist church. I often say just to appease her mom, who I loved, but just to appease her mom. Like, I don't even think she wanted to be there.
Right.
And I remember a partying buddy of mine throughout high school. We went to school at Lindenwood together to play hockey together. We grew up playing hockey. He came from a little bit more of a dysfunctional family. Partier, man. I remember every other word was a cuss word out of his mouth. And God got a hold of his life about a year before he got a hold of my life. And I remember I would just watch him from afar, just so intrigued, but also like, who is this guy, man? Yeah. I mean, it was a quick transformation. And I remember in airports when we'd be flying out to go to different places with hockey, you know, he'd be over reading his Bible and the rest of us would be sitting there like, what's wrong with Joe? Like, I didn't ever see somebody read their Bible, right? Again, not a knock on the Catholic Church, but people didn't take their Bibles to Catholic Church. I don't even know if I ever saw my girlfriend, fiance, now wife at that time read her Bible, and we would just make fun of him. But man, I remember at one point leaning over, we kind of sat across the aisle on the plane, and he had his Bible open. I'm like, man, what are you even reading in there? Like, how do you even know where to start? It was just a small little conversation that I think God started to use to just plant the seeds. And a year after that, do you want me to go into the conversion? Is that what you said, Bobby? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, so I remember, actually, let me take you back. 6 months after that, my wife, we were driving in our hometown, and somebody had given her the book, Purpose Driven Life. I think it was her sister-in-law, or no, her sister. And God really used that to start tugging on her heart again. And she started to realize, man, the life and the path that she was on was not what God wanted for her life. And even me, who was not a believer at that point, she started to feel convicted about that. She'd seen other couples that, again, in her life that had gotten divorced because of just one was being a believer, trying to live that life. One, the other spouse didn't have any interest. So she's thinking of our relationship. It was starting to get pretty serious and thinking, I don't know if I want to marry a guy who's not a believer. Yeah. So I remember at one point she asked me in the car, she's like, hey, I just got a question. She was real nervous. And she just said, see, what do you think about Jesus? And I looked at her, I'm like, what do you mean? What do I think about Jesus? She's like, do you believe in him? Do you think he's the Son of God? And I remember in just kind of a very arrogant way looking back and being like, what does it even matter? Like, why are you asking me these questions? And she started to tear up, and that made me even more angry because I just didn't get it.
Yeah.
So I got angry. She cried more, and we just kind of ended it. And I think it was just awkward from that point forward. And she says from that point forward, she started praying, God, either give me the courage to end this relationship or change his heart. And what's crazy about my story, Bobby and Gerrard, is not all people have to fall flat on their face in order to find Christ. I think the majority do because of how prideful we are as human beings. I mean, I had a lot of pride. I didn't think I needed him whatsoever. But my story's a little different because about 6 months later, she stuck with me. I don't really know why. I walked into that small little Baptist church, again, wanting nothing to do with God. It's still a great point in my life. I always say, man, I had great loving parents at this point. I was excelling academically. I was excelling athletically. I had a hot blonde girlfriend. I just had everything from the outside, and I wasn't like miserable. I wouldn't think I was even searching. Walked in wanting nothing to do with God. I don't even remember the sermon was. I just remember being wrapped up into it more than I ever had before and listening more closely than I had. And essentially what I think I heard, I don't think he said this, but essentially what I heard was, you think you have it all together and you don't. You think you have all the answers, but what if you're wrong? And I walked into that church wanting nothing to do with God. An hour later, walking out wanting everything to do with God.
Wow.
And I went back to my mother-in-law and I said, and she was so ecstatic. She's like, man, I've got a friend that I can connect you with. I said, that would be great. I called my buddy that got saved an hour before that. I said, man, can I come to your dorm room tonight? She went to Mizzou. I went back to Lindenwood. I think it was like midnight that night. I walked into his dorm room and I said, dude, tell me everything you know. And for the first time, somebody opened up their Bible and took those big pieces that I had and through scripture started to put the picture together. Got on my knees that night, gave my life to Christ. My wife rededicated, which was my girlfriend at that time, rededicated her life. And there's more, but that's the start of.
That's the start.
Yeah, and it was a real transformation, man. I remember. I remember the next day. I think I went through my CDs and like threw out 90% of them. It was just crazy. Like now that I think back on it, how quickly God got a hold of my heart and how quickly the transformation started to happen.
Yeah, and it sounds like nothing short of divine intervention, because like you said, you weren't
100%.
You weren't searching for anything.
No.
It sounds like you were enjoying your life, right? Because like you said, a lot of people, I know, our testimonies, we did fall pretty aggressively.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of pain, and I don't know, maybe it correlates to how much pride you have.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, we got to really beat this guy up. But that is interesting. So like, how do you conceptualize like that, like being on the other side of it? Like if you were talking to you back in the day, and obviously being who you are now, a pastor of a church, like how would you get that person to understand that? Because without the searching, without the hurt, like that just that transformation is crazy. Like that has to be God.
Here's a couple lessons I think some people maybe can take from just that part of my story. There's another part where I did fall flat on my face. I call it my second great awakening. If you guys want to talk about that,
we definitely will.
Definitely a lot of lessons to learn in that. I think this is good because some people, we look at their lives, right? And externally, you never know what's going on internally, but externally and maybe even internally, things are great. And you're like, man, I remember praying for a lot of my family after that who had great lives, like my immediate family, mom, dad, brothers, and other brothers who were not walking with the Lord, didn't even know him. I knew him about as well as I did before I got saved, and thinking, God, do whatever you got to do. Do whatever you got to do to drop them to their knees. But sometimes it looks like, man, they just have such a great life. Is God ever going to get a hold of their heart? And I think I'm an example of, man, God can get a hold of whatever heart he wants at any time that he wants. Yeah, and that, awesome. Man, we can play a part in that. And maybe that's what you're asking. I can talk to that. But also understanding that God is the only one through the power of the Holy Spirit that can resurrect the heart. He's the only one, right? So to me, I think the lesson in that is I remember having another encounter with another hockey buddy who has always been a believer. He's also grew up playing hockey with Joe, who's the guy that did not grow up as a believer, a partying buddy of mine. There was another guy who was a goalie. His name was Justin. And at one of our trips, man, we won state or something, or nationals. And the rest of the hockey team was all partying, man. We were drinking. I was pretty drunk at this point. I remember stumbling into this guy's room. They were not part of the partying, and they had their Bibles open just talking. And again, I'm like, what are you guys doing? Why aren't you out here with us? It made no sense to me. And they were so gentle. Like, they didn't condemn. Yeah. They didn't push. They weren't aggressive with it. And if I could go back and speak to I would do that. I would not try to aggressively push because I didn't want to hear it. Like the few encounters that I had up to that point, it was usually hey, that's great for you. Keep it up. However, I don't want to hear any of that stuff. Yeah. So it's to live by being influenced by the way that you live, but being influenced by the way that you don't push people off. So when they are ready, so Joe, when I was ready, Joe was available. And Joe never pushed me so far away to where when I was ready, I would be like, I don't want to call Joe because I know he's judgmental, he's condemning, he's all of these things. No, Joe was never any of those things. So when the timing was right, when God had my heart, Joe was the guy. I didn't even think twice. Joe's the guy I'm calling.
Yeah.
I don't know if that made sense.
Yeah,
like,
no.
I wouldn't try to aggressively push. I wouldn't try to use all the apologetics that I had. I'm ready. Mm-hmm. It's 1 Peter 3:15. Be ready to give an answer for the hope that lies within you, but do it with gentleness and respect, man. At every conversations we have, Paul says, clothe them in love, clothe them in grace, because there will be a time. And if you're around, and when that person's around, man, I want to be the person. I want to be part of that, man. But if I'm just aggressive to them, I'm judgmental, I'm condemning, they're not going to come to us for that. And I'm not saying we're going to ruin the opportunity. God's still sovereign over their heart. But, man, I want to be a part of that. Not so I can say, look at me, because, man, it grows my faith every time that I'm involved in somebody's conversion story or their growth as a believer. I want to be part of that.
Yeah.
So,
And I think I can speak for the both of us. We can definitely, I think, in the beginning when we were figuring out our faith,
yeah,
and we knew like, hey, this is the way. And we would try to bring buddies to the faith or family, and I don't know if we did it very gracefully.
well, I didn't always, man.
Yeah.
I was the aggressive internet troll at sometimes.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, I was just so puffed up behind my computer answering all of these things. I remember my mom at one point, she was part of one of the threads, and she's like, how do you know so much about the Bible and how to answer people? I said, because Google. Like when I'm behind my computer, I can Google it and quickly send it. And then I was just a troll, puffed up with the supposable knowledge of Christ. And all I did was just aggressively push people further from the heart of God.
I think one of the best books we read actually with our men's group was The Grace and Truth Paradox.
Oh, love
that
it.
by Randy Alcorn.
Yeah.
That.
So if I can, I don't mean to interrupt, but I was like kind of finding my identity in politics when I read that book. And I think it's that first opening where he brought donuts to the abortion clinic, I believe. And he sat down and he had a conversation with one of the women that were there to protest against the church being there. And the way that conversation went and what he saw in that person, I think that was like just boom, like light bulb. Like that book, I think changed my life. So I don't mean to cut you off. I just remember that, and I was like, because I was getting real kind of divided in my political beliefs. Like you always say at service, like you don't want to be hurling things across the aisle. Yeah. Oh, I was. I definitely was. And it was getting bad. I mean, during COVID, we would play Call of Duty together, and we were all in different states, right? Yeah. We were just all over the place. And I mean, you would hear some of the conversations that I would have with, at the time, what I considered my good buddies. Oh, dude, we were vicious. Yeah, like, and it was not good.
The prerequisite to being Bobby's friend is like you have to get in some sort of like major argument or a fight with him back before he was saved. So it was like
it was like the trial. It's like this person.
So wait, were you saved in 2020? No. Or has this been more? That's been that recent?
Yeah,
I don't even know if I knew that. Wow. What about you? You neither?
No, I think I'm about 4 years, so about 2021.
Wow. Yeah. Beautiful, man. I did not know that, man.
Yeah. Now we went through periods of time where we went to church.
Sure.
I was baptized, but I kind of have like the second part of my story, just like you do, where I got baptized. I was actually going to Wentzville Christian. I got baptized there, and then probably the worst period of my life happened. And then ironically, he moved out. We got together. We started going to Two Rivers. Kevin Ford, bodybuilder. Dude,
oh yeah.
He invited us to Two Rivers, and then I mean, honestly, that's the rebirth of our faith.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's great.
Yeah, mine was a little before that. I was in California, and I was playing professional football. That fizzled out, and I was just in a bad place mentally. I hit rock bottom, and I was trying to find all these different pathways to find purpose because I put all of my purpose in football and my ability to perform athletically. And once that was pulled away from me, I felt like I lost everything. Yeah. And everything came raining down on me. Past hurts, past traumas, everything. So I was actually hungover, and I'll just give my brief testimony, but I was hungover with one of my buddies. We were living in Orange County, California, and pull up to a church leaves a gift basket on our apartment. We had just moved in, and we're like, oh, this is cool. We both grew up going to church. His grandpa pastored a church for many years in Pasadena, and we were both rough around the edges a little bit. And we were still drinking, partying, hanging out with girls, doing all the things we shouldn't be doing. We're like, all right, we got to try going to one of these churches. So we went out Saturday night and found our way to the wrong church. It wasn't the church that left the basket, but that was my first encounter with the Holy Spirit. Like it was nothing like I've ever felt before. And that was probably only about a year before I moved out here.
Okay, I was going to ask when that was.
Okay. Maybe it was a little over a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Beautiful, man. I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good thing or like
No, I think that's fantastic. I mean, just to know the journey you guys have been on,
Yeah.
even while you're at Two Rivers, and this podcast and the heart behind that, and not that God can't bring you along that quickly, right?
Yeah.
But that's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
In my
I
opinion.
mean, you know, Two Rivers has had a major part to play in that. Like the community,
that's awesome.
The home team.
Yeah,
You know, Daniel Ballard, like he's my accountability partner.
yeah, he's phenomenal.
And yeah, just the transformation. And we dove into it. Like, I think we had been going there for 2 weeks, and then we're like, hey, what's this home team thing like?
Oh man!
And then I think we remember talking to somebody. They were like, you've only been coming here for like a couple weeks. Are you sure you want to join a home team? Like,
yeah.
you
Tell
know,
me who that is, because they're probably going to get fired. Yeah, no.
But we moved pretty quickly in there. And man,
Beautiful.
I remember just the vulnerability in the home team of like,
Yeah.
you know, me being that infant in my
Absolutely,
spiritual walk. And just the men around me, it's been fantastic. But enough about us. I really want to hear this.
Well, before we get to that, so a big topic that we've talked about a lot is people get saved. They're on this spiritual high.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this will kind of flow into your next
Sure.
phase, but kind of if you can't explain that, like when you first got saved, was it like a radical change? Was there still things that you needed to work through? Because I know for myself, it took years. I mean, there's still things that I battle with, and I feel like part of the sanctification process, it's a lifelong journey.
That's good.
But yeah, if you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. So I didn't say on the front end. So I got saved. It was between my sophomore and junior year of college. So I was 20, about to turn 21. And I was always the type, you can probably see me now, I've come way down, I'm 41 now. So, but still, a lot of energy, glass half full, positive. Probably had ADHD growing up and was never diagnosed with it. Part of that is, man, I jump into something strong. It would last. I see this in my 10-year-old son now, who struggles with ADHD as well, man. He is on a kick with something, whether it lasts a day or it lasts a couple weeks, and then it fizzles out and he's on to the next thing. Whether it was magic, it was my rock tumbler, it was whatever it was, man, I was always jumping in, and I would excel. I'd be all in, and then it would fizzle out and I'd find the next thing. So when I became a believer, I remember my parents, and I don't know if they told me this afterwards or they said, I wouldn't imagine they told me this to my face, because they're just not that tight. But at some point they were thinking, okay, here's Nick's next big thing, right? And it's going to last a couple weeks, and he's going to be out and going on in his next thing. And because it was real, it didn't. Like, I was all in. My wife, or girlfriend at that time, was all in. And we quickly found Two Rivers Church, which is kind of a cool part of our story. The first church we were ever part of, because she ended up then, so we went our whole junior year, but when she would come into town, we'd go to Two Rivers Church together. I think I would go even without her. And then we got married right before our senior year, living in marriage housing up at Lindenwood, and Two Rivers was our home church, sitting under Ron Cathcart, the founding pastor at that point. And man, we were in Bible studies. I remember I was part of they didn't call it Campus Crusade, whatever that was, the crusade going on at Lindenwood. I was very driven as far as just leadership wise. I wanted to be in commercial real estate because that's what my uncle did, and I saw his life, and he was just a great man also. And I actually got my real estate license my junior year, started to dabble into that, and was starting to be part of the leadership team. So I was in, man, and I was all in, and I was learning and growing and desiring and reading books and in my word. And it lasted for quite some time until my senior year. I got introduced to a financial company. And for a period of time, I was just going to get my general business administration degree, which I ended up getting. And that was just kind of a backup. Commercial real estate was always my goal. Was in that for about 6 months, was doing really well. And then I got introduced to this financial company. At a certain point, I couldn't do both. I had to choose one or the other. And I chose the financial company, and it was off and running. And I didn't leave my faith behind. I mean, my faith was brought into that company. The company from the CEOs down was Christian. I mean, they welcomed anybody of faith. It was kind of structured like real estate would be. You had a broker and an agent. And at the point, I was just a newbie agent learning the financial services industry, and was bringing my faith into the office. I remember having conversations at some point, was doing Bible studies within the office, and still very much into my faith until I got a taste of money and success. So I don't know if you want to keep going
Yeah.
there, but
Yeah, no, I mean, this is the part that I think us having the conversation before we got going, I think this is the part where we really want to kind of dive into it.
Yeah.
You know, we've had conversations. I'm sure some of our friends and family that are either, you know, understand business or are in business, they could probably relate. So let's talk about that. Let's get into it.
Yeah, so I'm 21. I excelled very quickly, and to the point where we would do financial seminars, real small. I know anywhere from 20 people to, you know, on a really good night, 100 people would come to learn about what we were teaching. We were really interested in the educational side of investing, insurance, teaching some of the pitfalls, debt elimination. Very quickly got put up front to say, hey, you're going to be one of our speakers, right? 21 years old and on pace by the age of 25 to make six figures, which may not seem like a lot now, although I think it is in some circles. Back in, I guess this was early 2000s. So I graduated in 2006. So it was a lot of money for me. I never even came close to making that much money. My wife and I, man, sold her the dream. And that a lot of money flowed through this business. A lot of good people, a lot of people, man, that just, man, this is how you sell. This is how you make money. Here's what you want. They showed the houses. They showed the cars. And man, I got enough of a taste to it that I said, that's what I want. And I would mask it in, but if I have more money, I can give more money. Think about, you know, how much, you know, we could do this mission, this and this mission. And I think that was still part of my heart, but part of it also was justification to make this my now. I didn't know it at this time, but it became my God. Like business became my God, but my justification in my head was, but the more money I can make, the more influence I can have for the kingdom, the more money I can give away. And all of that is true.
Right.
I think we just got to be very careful if you're in that boat, man, of is that truly the priority of your life? And how is that playing out? In the first 3 years, it was great. And that was until the market tanked in 07, 08.
Wow.
So...
yeah, I mean, I've heard from, you know, older guys in the business that are Christian that, you know, I'll have conversations with, and it's like, man, he's like, the reality of it is when you start making money, you're playing with fire.
Yeah.
So was that a subtle transition from, you know, hey, you brought your faith into it, you started making some money.
Yeah.
Obviously you have. And I know exactly what type of, you know, company you're talking about. Like I mean, you kind of worked for one of them where they're throwing up how much, you know, people were making.
Oh yeah.
And people were, man. I mean, this company was owned by Citi,
Yeah.
Which was the largest company in the world at one point. I mean, at this point, actually, I think there were over $1 trillion in assets. So it wasn't masked. Like, people were making hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I had started making some of that money doing what I thought and still think to this day, great company, I own some of their products, was the right thing.
Right.
However, there's a reason Jesus spoke about money 30% of the time that he spoke, right? In some form or another. And not because it's evil, not because it's bad in and of itself, but because, I think we were talking about this beforehand, he knew the pull that even back in that time, speaking to poor Jewish pheasants a lot of time, right?
Yeah.
Peasants, I should say, not pheasants, peasants. And here's the deal, whether you're poor or rich, money can still have a pull on your heart. So it's not just for the rich. You can be obsessed with money and be poor, thinking all the time about it, that, man, if I could only get to this level, then I can be happy, then I can give more. And I wasn't rich at that point, man. We were barely scraping by, but I had tasted enough of it, had enough big enough transactions to want just more and more and more of it. And too young in my faith and too young in my age and experience to know how to balance that, and really didn't have the mentor in my life at that stage to help me through that. Actually, at one point I did, and I just didn't want to hear anything he had to say. I kind of just wrote it off as, okay, Rick, you never made money. You're a pastor. Like, right? Like you don't really know what this is about.
Right.
And I'll come back around to Rick here in a second.
Yeah. So you know, that whole concept of playing with fire, like I think there's some like pride and ego is kind of at the root of a lot of this, and self-reliance. Yeah. Right. Like, I've experienced it where, you know, before coming to Christ truly, kind of like my second coming, like I would read every business self-help book under the sun.
100%. We probably read a lot of the same ones. Yes.
And so, you know, I would go and implement that. And it's funny that you said you mentioned your 10-year-old. diving into something like really aggressively. Like I'm sure he's heard that and he's like, that's my brother.
Yeah.
Right. Like I would do the same thing with these books and I would like try to change my life and like same idea.
Yeah.
If I get one more dollar or if I get a little bit better at this,
Yeah.
it's all going to like click and make sense.
Yeah.
So how much did pride and ego at that time and like self-reliance, was that starting to like grow or had it always been there?
It had always been there. Absolutely. I think back to my childhood, man, I was just a prideful kid. Like, I don't think I was so arrogant that I probably in some circles pushed people away. But again, I think I lived a pretty good upper middle income life, right?
Yeah.
We weren't rich, but I had a lot of what I needed and wanted. Again, I was good at sports just naturally at a level. Like excelled at hockey at a very young age, was breaking records left and right at our local skate barn. We call it, the skate barn is what it was called, but the little hockey rink, and then became part of the traveling team and was excelling there. I think I was a pretty good looking kid. I think I can say that now looking back. Like I wasn't, I had tons of girlfriends. I remember in second grade when I met my wife, she was not my girlfriend, but had other girls that I was always interested in and were always around. Like, yeah, man, I was just full of pride. The challenge is prideful people don't often know that they're prideful people, right?
Yeah.
And so then, I get to this company. I'm young, and they're putting me up on stage at pretty quickly. Realize this guy can speak. I had a natural just ability to be able to speak, God-given, by the way. I mean, that's nothing I can own myself. And now I'm speaking. I'm starting to make some money. I have one of the biggest teams in the office, and absolutely, like I just wanted more and more and more. It was literally I was a drug addict. It's like any drug addict, right?
Yeah.
That you taste something that makes you feel good. And I guess for some drug addicts, though, they know it's not good for them. They do it anyway. I did not realize this was not good for me, the path that I was headed. I was fully convinced this is the way. If you're not on board with me, you're foolish and you're wasting your life and you're wasting, if you're a father especially, you are wasting what God has given you. How could you settle for anything more than just pursuing? It didn't have to be the business I was in, but entrepreneurship and business. And looking back now, those are the things that, man, I started to become somebody I was not. And I hate that part of me. But we can get there.
Yeah.
I don't know where you want to go from there. There's way more to the the fall.
It sounds like that was the prerequisite.
Absolutely.
You know, it needed to happen. So yeah, let's talk about when God broke you down.
Yeah. So 08 hit, market tanked. One of the products that was making me about 60% of my income, it was a mortgage, and we only had access to it. It was literally teaching people how to pay off their mortgage faster. It was not one of those gimmicks, the ones that actually helped the market tank. We were not part of that. So I'm thankful to say that.
Yeah.
However, because it was through Citi, and Citi did have products like that, and Citi did start to crumble, they pulled that product away from us. So about 60% of my income was pulled away. And at that point, if I was mature enough, I could have looked and said, wow, maybe I need to start looking somewhere else. But I wasn't. Just kept going and going and going for about another 3 years. I had insurance and investments to live off of. I was commission only unless I had an investment profile portfolio is what I was looking for. Mm-hmm. And I didn't. We weren't heavy in investments because unless you landed a big trade, you didn't see the payoff for years. So it's like, no, I wanted the money now. So we were insurance, recruit people, build a team, all of those type of things. And man, it just never came. And what I did is eventually I tapped out all my credit cards. I tapped out my extra bank accounts. Like there was like a reserve account that I could get on my bank. I realized I could get 2 of them. Man, I got good, guys. I got good at convincing my bank to give me money, even though I didn't have a penny, and another credit card. I convinced friends to give me. It's like a drug addict, right? Mm-hmm. Well, hey, and to me, the convincing thing was all I got to do is land one more investment transaction and I'll pay it all back, which was true. The challenge was that investment transaction never came. Yeah. So I just kept going backwards. I was lying to my wife behind her back in the sense of not telling her we're racking up. She knew we weren't great, but man, I was good at sales. So I sold her even, hey babe, we're going to pull out of this. We're going to be good. Remember that time? Remember all of these things? And she was miserable in the background, but just wanted to honor what I was telling her. Had 2 kids, not even really raising them at this point, because the goal was I'll work 80 hours now while I'm young, while my kids are young, to build the business. And then once we get there, I'll give them everything they ever want. my wife too. Hey, if you'll just give me 70, 80 hours for, X amount of years, I'll build it big. We'll get there and you'll forget about the fact that I wasn't around because I'm going to be around all the time. Challenge is that time never came.
Yeah.
What happened was pulling out of my driveway. This is about 6 years into the business. And I got a text that I had received numerous times up to that point from my bank that said, your account's gone negative. The challenge this time is I had no extra reserves, had no credit cards left, had already borrowed over $5,000 from 3 different friends. So I pulled over and I'm thinking, who can I call now to borrow money from? And I'm finally like, I can't do this any longer. So as embarrassing as this sounds, I call my mom. And I'm like, Mom, I need help. Got literally like a drug addict coming to the end of his ropes. Like, I need help. And my mom knew we weren't great, but she didn't know to the extent of it. And she's like, what do you mean? And I just said, I've got myself in a situation I just can't get myself out of. She said, your dad and I will be there, but you need to go home and tell your wife everything. Pulled the car around, guys, and man, you talk about a humbling experience. I literally just got on my knees, tears in my eyes, and I admitted everything to my wife. She had every reason, not necessarily biblically, but every reason, everything else wise, to just leave me at that point or just say, I need to get away from this situation and I'm taking the kids. And she didn't. She said, it was hard, and we time, had to heal some of that trust there, but she said, okay, thank you for admitting it. I'm glad you did it now before it got too destructive. Let's meet with your parents and let's put on a plan to get out of this. And there's more to the story, but
Yeah.
I call that at this point my second great awakening.
Yeah.
That's kind of a lot of people's first conversion stories, guys. And I think we all at some point, and there's been other instances since then where I've been humbled. That was probably the most humbling experience that I've ever been part of. I mean, you talk about a father, husband who promised his kids, promised his wife everything in the world, promised all his friends, laughed at them behind their backs of, man, you think you got it going with your middle income job, right? Where you have no control over your finances. Look at me, which by the way, I wasn't making anything basically. And just falling flat. Just flat. I needed it so desperately, though. I needed to be humbled.
Yeah.
And I was humbled more than I ever knew that a person could be humbled in that moment.
Was there a conversation with God after that? Like that moment that you went back and you basically, confessed to your wife and you kind of lay it all out.
Yeah.
Was there anything that like transformed that relationship with God?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm 27, full of shame. And I'm not even sure if I'm looking back, Bobby, if I could even speak directly to that question. I really feel like I was just so full of shame that I took enough to go to my wife that at that moment, I don't think I felt like I could even go to God. And I knew theologically that was wrong. Mm-hmm. But in that moment, I'm like, there's no way. Like the prodigal son. I knew the story of the prodigal son. I wanted to believe that God could meet me, and run to me. And I don't think I could even muster up the courage to go to him, even though he knew it all.
Yeah.
I went to my wife, and then that Rick that I mentioned earlier. So Rick was my mentor up to this point. I met him at Two Rivers. He was the missions pastor when the market tanked. They unfortunately had to let Rick go, and Rick ended up becoming a lead pastor at a church that was like 7 minutes from our home. So we eventually had to stop going to Two Rivers because we moved a little bit east. It's like a 40-minute drive, and we're like, we can't do this with 2 kids. And I don't even think we were going to church every Sunday because, man, Sunday was another day to work and another day to work.
Yeah.
You can't let that time go by. So, but we had switched to go to his church, real small, used to be called Rockwood Baptist. He changed the name to Life Point, or they did once he became pastor there. So we were part of that church. We were like the youngest ones there. But I had a good relationship. I would meet with him one-on-one. And again, he had given me some warnings up to that point of like, man, and nobody knew how bad we were except for me. But he could see the writing on the wall and would try to encourage me, man, I think you need to get out now. I think you need to, potentially go get a job. And job was like a bad word to me at that point.
Oh, yeah.
So he was the next guy that I called. And this was, I don't even know, the next day, and admitted everything to him. And again, another guy in my life, truth and grace, that just showed me so much love. And God used my wife and him to show me who God really is, which was really cool. Because sometimes we look at people and we see the opposite of who God is, and it turns us off from God, which is, man, why our witness is so important. But also for people to understand that human beings are not God, right? Even as a pastor, I'm going to probably fail you at some point. I hope I don't. I hope it's not intentional. but I'm going to fail you. So don't look at me as God, as their pastor, right? Or you guys or anybody else. But those two showed me so much grace and love in that moment that really God revealed himself through those two people. And it was my journey back from just being so broken. Those are two people that he used to start picking up the pieces and healing me again.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
So how'd you come out of that? How'd you get it all fixed?
Yeah, man, just admitting was such a huge step. Like we hear that all the time, right? Admitting it, coming to the realization is the first part, and then admitting where you're at is the second part. And it really opened my eyes to the theological idea of total depravity. And I don't want to get too far into that because people have differing beliefs, but the total depravity just means that when we are totally depraved apart from God. Like there's really nothing in us that wants anything from God. And if there's anything in us that does want something from God, it's from God. It's kind of like my story of walking into that church. And he had to ignite the flame inside of me. And how I've always told it is, at that point, I have a choice. I know that's debatable amongst different believers if I really had a choice. But I think up to 27, if you would have asked me, I was a believer. I truly believe it. I was saved. If I would have died at any of that point, I would have gone to heaven because of Jesus Christ, because of the faith he gave me. But man, I had slowly drifted, and again, from my master, which was God, to my master now being money, success in that company. If you would have asked me at that point if my heart is desperately wicked, like Jeremiah says, all of our hearts are, I would have gave you the Bible answer because I knew the verse. Well, yeah, it is. And I would have walked away saying, but it's really not. That guy's heart is desperately wicked. That woman's heart is desperately wicked, but not mine. I mean, deep down, I'm good, right? I have God. And so what happened was through that, man, God showed me. He allowed me to get to the position where he showed me, man, your heart's more wicked than you think it is apart from me. Yeah. And like I said, I started to become somebody that I never knew I could become. To the point, man, I was on the verge of lying, and I was borderline lying to my clients because I got to feed my family.
Yeah.
Lying behind my wife, thinking things of people that didn't think that way I thought, that I never thought I would think of people, like people that are close in my life. So I came out of that, that's another part of the humbling experience. And then it's like, man, how do you pick yourself up from that? Well, God put people in my life. And I would think that, man, if you get to that point, God's going to hopefully bring people to your life. And you have one choice. You can hide from those people, or you can expose the sin. You can bring it to light and then have hopefully some trusted people that aren't going to judge you and condemn you. And that's hard to find sometimes. But that's that brotherhood you guys were talking about beforehand that Rick became for me. Rick really just helped me now see who God was, not just through the way he treated me, but now getting back to scripture. And then it was I don't even think 4 months later, I started to get involved in youth at that small little church. There was like 10 kids. Youth pastor stepped down and he's like, hey man, what do you think about leading the youth? And I'm like, me? He's like, man, you know how to speak. You've developed your leadership skills. And it's more than that to be in ministry. He's like, you've fallen flat and you've seen and tasted the grace of God that a lot of people have not, and these kids need. Like, what do you think? And I'm like, broken 27-year-old. Like, are you sure, man? I may have been 28 at that point. It was like February of the next year. And I'd fallen in November, I think, of that past year. So about 4 months later, and I'm like, all right. And that was my entry into kind of ministry. I wasn't a pastor. I wasn't going to seminary. And just... It's kind of like David going from the sheep pen to, I was in the sheep pen still, right? And then he got to the palace, but he had to start in the sheep pen. And then he became the war general, and then he became the king. It was just a beautiful entry into ministry. Just, again, God's grace of just, hey, here's another step for you to take. Took some faith because I didn't feel I was worthy one bit. And then about 6 months into doing that, that Rick guy said, hey, did you ever thought about ministry? And I'm like, you mean like full time? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, people have told me I could speak, right? It said, man, what do you, even when I was in the financial company, some people that were, I guess more Christian than I was, were like, man, you should be a pastor. And I'm like, now this is my lot in life. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I guess I'll consider it. He convinced me to go to Liberty University, get my seminary degree. At that point, I didn't know what I was going to do with it. And I don't know if you want to keep going in that or that's the next chapter. So, yeah.
So one of the things that you had just mentioned and I don't want to put words into your mouth, but it sounded like redemption came when you took that internal problem and you spoke to others about it. And that's when God started to work.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the best things that you've said. I was actually at one of the Celebrate Recovery.
Oh yeah.
I went to like 2 or 3 of them back when I first moved out here. And you had said, and I've said this, Bobby knows, I've said it probably 3 times on the podcast already, but you said that your problems are like a fungus. And if you keep them internalized, they grow. Like what you made the analogy, it was like, what happens to fungus in the dark? It grows.
It's good.
But when you bring it to light, it dies. And when you said that, because I was still going through a lot of just emotional hangups at the time. When you had said that at that Celebrate Recovery, that like instant like shift, it was a perspective changer for me. And I was like, man, anytime that I felt, because that's what I did when I had all my problems, and they lasted for years because I internalized everything. I thought I was the problem. I'm the only one going through this. What's wrong with me? All these different things. And as soon as I got into, as soon as God came and knocked on my door, I started letting those things out, and I started learning how to let those things out. And I started to lament, and I started to deal with those problems by talking to other believers and having community. And it sounds like once you hit that rock bottom place, and you just, first thing you did was you called your mom, and then you spoke to your wife.
My
it's
mom,
like,
yeah.
That's where redemption came and the healing came. So that's
good. Yeah. I don't even remember saying that. I'm sure I stole that from somebody else. I know I stole that from somebody else. I'm going to use that again. I forgot I even said that. That's really good, man.
Nick's wise.
I stole it totally from somebody else. It's great Adrian Rogers, great Southern Baptist preacher, who said, hey, if my bullet fits in your gun, shoot it, right? And a lot of bullets out there that are way better than the bullets I can put in my gun to shoot. So absolutely, man. It's a whole adage of Satan, the real enemy, wants us to keep it all in the dark. And his men, man, it's so easy. Because at the root of every sin is pride. And at the root of every man is pride, right? Not that women don't struggle with that, but you go back to the garden with Adam and Eve, the 2 sins that were first committed were pride and passivity. And in our marriages, right, we're not going to go into this, right? Those are the 2 things that men struggle with the most, absolutely. Outside of our marriages, pride just carries with us everywhere, right? Especially if you grew up playing sports and, in a home that maybe it's like, hey, no, you rub dirt on it, which I think there's value to that as well. I'm not saying that we just walk around sharing our emotions everywhere we go and crying, but there is a time and a place. It's why confession, I'm not Catholic, and there are a lot of areas in Catholicism that I don't agree with theologically, but I love the fact that they emphasize confession regularly. I don't necessarily agree with theologically how they do it, but confession is something that the evangelical Protestant church has moved completely away from. And just emphasizing, I think that's what the talk was on at CR that night, of how valuable confession is. Now, you've got to have trusted people, though. That you can be fully known and vulnerable with, and that are going to, again, point you back in love and truth, grace and truth, back to the scriptures to be able to confess. But confession it's the starting place to any type of redemption, growth, healing. We have to recognize where we are first before we can get to where we want to go. Right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
The challenge is recognizing truly where we are. A lot of times we can see where we want to go, especially us driven people in life, but it's, hey, okay, why aren't we there? Well, we're not there because of where we are. Why are we here? Well, what's causing us to be stuck here? Now, sometimes that's just surface stuff. Oh, okay, yeah, just get that obstacle out of the way. Yeah. But when it becomes internal, it's oftentimes deceived. I said prideful people don't know they're prideful people typically. Deceived people don't know that they're deceived. James talks about that. So it's easy to become deceived, which is why, man, we need brothers and sisters need sisters in their life that, again, like Rick did, lovingly come alongside you and say, hey, dude, how are you doing right now? I can tell you're not doing well, right? They can see it all over your face, or just challenge you. How's your marriage right now? How's your business? Like, how's your priorities and all of those things that we just desperately need. If we want to move, if we want to continue to grow, if we want to continue to be part of the big K kingdom. If you don't, then it doesn't really matter, right? We're just building our kingdom here on earth. But man, if we truly have a desire to build the kingdom of God or be part of that, we've got to come to the end of ourselves. You said it earlier, and to come to the end of yourself, you got to realize where you are with yourself first.
Yeah. Yeah. I mentioned earlier that, I meet with Daniel and we'll both, we seem to be pretty synchronized on when we get into ruts.
I love that.
Happens at the same time.
Yeah.
And then we look at it and we kind of analyze it a little bit. It's like, oh, why are we in a rut? Oh, we haven't met in 3-4 weeks. Right. And it's like, it's always like that kind of like, should have had a V8, like palm forehead kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, like we know how valuable this is. Like we've experienced like the conversations that him and I have had, we walk away like last time he took me to Lion's Choice, which if you're not from the St. Louis area, I'm not originally. Apparently, it's real popular.
Yeah.
Like Daniel has like T-shirts of it, and
he's just weird. I didn't know he was that popular.
Yeah, maybe it's Daniel. If you're listening, it's maybe just that popular to you.
Yeah.
But he's like, man, you got to try Lion's Choice. I'm like, dude, I'm not really an Arby's guy, but I'll go to Lion's Choice with you. And we both drove to Lion's Choice, and we sat down, and it's like, how are you doing? Okay. How are you doing? Okay. Actually, we're both not doing very well.
Yeah.
And so we're sitting down enjoying this roast beef sandwich. And we walked away from that conversation just uplifted. And we had a bad day, a bad week. Yeah. And then we have that conversation, we confess our sins, and you just get filled with the Holy Spirit. And it's like, man, it's like sometimes the answer to a lot of our problems, we know it, it's right in front of us. But,
Man, it's Galatians 6:1, I want to believe. Galatians 6:1, confess your sins to one another and you shall be healed.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you just said. Confess Paul tells us, right? But God tells us, confess your sins to one another. But man, does that take a lot of humility, guys. I mean, it just does.
Yeah.
And it's a constant dying. I mean, Jesus said it, carry your cross daily, man. Humble yourself. Like this social media driven and even church driven world where we just throw up a fancy Bible verse. Like, no, that's just not the realness that we need from human beings and from relationships, which is why we emphasize. That's why I told you I'm firing the person that told you, asked you if you're ready to get into a small group. We call them home teams at our church. The most intimate type of community that we have is, no, we want every person that walks through our doors, yes, to be there on Sunday, but it's not about how big Sunday is. It's how many people are out of the rows and in circles on a weekly basis, because that is where the Holy Spirit can grab a hold. He can grab our hearts on Sundays, but it's not long enough to let that percolate.
Mm-hmm.
So he needs time. It needs time to percolate, to get to the depths of where we've shoved things down, and that's going to happen through real community and real time with God, which hopefully will be pushed and emphasized through real community as well.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, there needs to be multiple touch points.
Absolutely.
It's like, I look at Sunday as like just the spiritual like refresher.
Yeah.
Right. But like, so we're in a season where we're not going to home team right now. We took like a summer break.
Yeah.
But if you don't have your Tuesday, and for us, you don't have your Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then you're not in your word the rest of the days. Like as those things, you start to take breaks from those things. Like you see how much you need it. You're right. It's not just a show up Sunday and poof, we're good. Like you got to put the work in.
You start to crawl in on Sunday if you don't foster your relationship throughout the week.
Yeah.
I felt that way, where I let all the nonsense of the week, whether it be work or hard conversation with my wife, all these things. If I don't have those touch points, or if I'm not in my word daily, which I'm not, like I try to be, I try to be as much as I can. But if I don't have my home team on Tuesday or Wednesday, the men's Bible study, if I skip all of that and I do that for long periods of time, I start to feel that distance. Yeah. And it does. It starts to get harder. And then you're sitting in church and now you're starting to fidget in church. It's like the what is the book called? We just talking about it. The John Marco.
Ruthless Elimination of Hurry.
Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. I start to, if I don't have those touch points, I start to try to hurry through everything. And even at church, I'm just like, what time is it? Oh, I got to do this. And it's crazy. So having the community, having those multiple things throughout the week, it's not just a Sunday thing. Like you have to foster your relationship in order for it to grow.
Yeah. And to take this back to not that it's all about my story or testimony, but I think back now to that financial services company. like I was hanging around people that were telling me what I wanted to hear,
Mhm.
right? So even in that, my theology started to become very, very warped, very word of faith movement, name it, claim it, health, wealth, prosperity. Like I had a great foundation given to me by Two Rivers Church and Pastor Ron Cathcart and the other people that invested in me there of just solid theology, and then just started to drift because my touch points became quite different, right? And is what I wanted to hear. And the old adage is, man, we're not, even as believers, we're still made of flesh, the sinful part of us. And we live within a fleshly world, a sinful world with a enemy that is kind of crafting it all together around us. So the natural drift is away from God. It's not towards God. If we do nothing, we will drift from God. It's similar to in our marriages. You guys are both married, right?
Mhm.
If we're not intentional to pursue our wives, we will naturally drift from our wives.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to happen to every single believer. The hope is, though, that, you know, we become so in tune with the Holy Spirit that even when we drift, we catch it here now instead of way out here. It's kind of like you guys are gym rats, right? I don't know if gym rat's the right word. Like, you like to work out.
Yeah, he's a rat.
I have been working out since college, but I rarely go like longer than like 4 months before I either tweak something and it puts me back on my back, or
Yeah.
I just get off my rhythm. But it's like working out, right?
Mhm.
Like if you only go to the gym on Sunday mornings, you're going to feel good when you leave there. Actually, you probably feel, I don't know how you're going to feel if you haven't been in the gym for a long time. Right?
Yeah,
You're going to
sore,
feel really
sore.
stretched, sore,
Yeah.
but it's going to feel like, okay, I'm accomplishing something. But you don't go back again until next Sunday, you're not going to see any gains, right?
No,
You're
yeah.
just, you're fooling yourself, essentially, is what it is. Interesting with working out, though, too, is in order for the muscles to build, what do we got to do? We got to break the muscle down, which is hard.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It hurts.
Yeah.
And the longer you're away from it, the more it's going to be painful. But the more you do it, the muscle's still being broken down. It's still going to hurt, but you're going to get strengthened in the process as well. Same thing with our Christian life. I remember going to that buddy about, I think, 3 months in after being a Christian, that buddy Joe that I talked about that helped, you know, lead me to Christ. And I said, man, my mind is all over the place. Is this how, and it wasn't a good thing. I'm like, is this how it's always going to be? And he laughed, and he didn't laugh because it was a dumb question. He laughed because he knew exactly what I was talking about. He was talking about Galatians 5, or I was, which is the conflict between the spirit and the flesh.
Yeah.
The spirit and the flesh, and how so thick and strong that is when you first become a believer. But because you're on a high, you can push through that. Well, when that high goes away, you're still confronted with the battle
Yeah.
of the flesh and the spirit. It's the same thing with working out, right? You're confronted. If you've never been in the gym and you go into the gym and you do it right, you're going to be stretched. And now you're confronted with pain.
Mhm.
And maybe you can get through that for the first week because you're like, okay, I really want to make this change. But then if you're not careful, you're not intentional, you're just going to settle and drift right back to the old habits and the old ways, even as a believer with the spirit inside of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how we got off on all that,
That's
guys.
No,
So
no,
hopefully
that's-
That's a great point.
Yeah, it's very true. I
Yeah.
mean, I think you know, there's times that we go through that, and you know, we're kind of in like a similar position where we have our business, we have KPIs, like, right? So like we can easily get wrapped up in the performance gospel, like really
Sure.
easily. I can get to the point where you know, some of the folks in my home team make fun of me. At one point in time, I had like this wheel goal chart diagram,
Mhm.
and I put all of my spiritual goals in there.
Yeah.
And I was just going through. I was like, read today, check. Like read today, check.
Yeah.
And then what I started realizing, and I had to stop doing that. I no longer had that. I started realizing that I was only doing those things to check the box to hit that KPI that I committed to. It wasn't to have a truly intentional conversation.
Yeah, that's a great point. Great
Relationship.
realization. Yeah.
So you kind of hit that place. You know, we talked about you talking to your mom and your buddy and them helping you get out of it, coming into ministry.
Yeah.
Was there any point that you felt like that calling to ministry, or was it just through those conversations where it was like introduced to you and you're like, yeah, like I think that could be a good idea, or did you feel like that call?
That's a great question. People asked me that before, and I don't think I did. Like, I really just think I was taking one step at a time in faith of like, I really don't know what is ahead of me. I did quickly realize, about a year into youth ministry of just leading this group, I didn't want to be a youth pastor. I knew that, right?
Yeah.
And even though I loved the one-on-ones with them, I loved the camaraderie, you know, we grew that a little bit. I just knew I didn't want to be that, and I didn't know what I wanted to be. But I guess at a certain point, I did feel the call into ministry, like just the sense of like, yeah, there's something there, God, you're calling me into, right? I'm getting my seminary degree, my master's in theological studies online, but it wasn't revealed to me. I guess I should say it was revealed to me slowly over time. Like, here's your next step. Okay, I guess I'm taking that next step, and I took the step, and then I stayed there for a little bit, and then he revealed the next step. And again, I say this very carefully, not to toot my horn, because I'm sure there was some steps along the way that I took incorrectly, that I meant well, or that maybe was selfishly driven. But you know, sometimes people say, how do I know what the next step is, or where it is? And I say, sometimes you don't. And God just wants you to be faithful right where you're at with what he's given you. And that could be, you're on an assembly line. You're a stay-at-home parent. You're the CEO of I mean, it doesn't matter, but where you're at is where he's got you right now. Be faithful in that, and then he'll reveal what's next and when it needs to be next. And I kind of look back, and that was kind of my story. Like, I look back, I'm like, I didn't even know what I was doing. Like, I was just, I'll be the youth pastor. I couldn't even call me pastor, youth leader. I mean, I was the guy in charge of these 10 kids, and then there was 15 kids, and then there was 20 kids, and I'm finding things online to do. And I had some guidance from Rick, but then I get a call from my buddy at my hometown. I ended up getting a job back out that way. I ended up being an auto and home insurance broker for a family-owned business out there. And I get a call from my buddy who is the lead pastor of the newest church in Warrenton, and they'd only been around for 2 years. He got promoted to it. He was actually a couple grades behind me, and he's like, man, we need an associate pastor. Would you be an associate pastor? And I'm like, God, is this what you're doing? Like, you've already moved my job out that way. This kind of makes sense, although it is my hometown, and I promised myself I'd never move back to my hometown. But man, it was funny, right? Yeah. God, I don't want to use this cliche, but I'm going to use it. God does have a sense of humor, right? Yeah. And this was his way of saying, no, I'm going to move you back to your hometown, and the first pastor job you're ever going to have is in your hometown. Yeah. And that's what happened. I was a part-time associate pastor and auto and home insurance broker, and I loved it, man. I just loved meeting people. I didn't have to sell like you. I really didn't. Like auto and home, you have to own it. Yeah. That's why the only reason I did it. I did not want anything to do with sales. But I'm like, I think I can do it auto and home. I'll take my educational approach, and I just won't be aggressive. Like, I either can beat you or I can't, straight up. And that's how I did it. I tried to do it with as much integrity and character at that point as I could. I had my part-time job as the associate pastor at this church that was thriving and growing, and I absolutely loved it. I had no idea that God had something else on the horizon for me at that point.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's awesome. When you were talking about sales and that, I think we both have experienced this before, because we're in real estate, so we're kind of we're the off market home buyers.
Okay,
right. So somebody inherits a house, they don't want to fix it up, they don't want to list it.
Yeah,
like we purchase it. There's a lot of bad actors in our industry, just flat out.
Yeah,
calling it what it is. And I think there's times that it's very easy, and I'm sure you know from your sales experience, it's very easy to omit / stretch the truth. And it becomes challenging to, it's like the closer you get to God, the closer you realize, like, man, you have to do things with like a high level of ethics.
Yeah.
And to do that well, you have to become better and better. Right? Like,
yeah.
Being a sales guy that lies, that produces, you're a bad sales guy. Like you're not very good.
That's good. I like that.
The more ethics that you apply to sales, the better skill, like the more skilled you have to be.
That makes total sense when you put it that way. Yeah.
One of the things, like early on in my sales career, I was just like, man, I wish somebody would come out with like a spiritual sales book. And I don't know if you know any that exists, or if anybody out there knows of one that exists.
I'm sure there is.
But I'm like, man, like I searched for that, and it's the only answer I got was like, man, you have to be so good that you can look somebody in the eye, tell them just the hard truth that this is what you would pay them for their house, and then be good with it.
Yeah, I think there are, I can't think of any, I'm sure maybe there is, sales Christian books, but there's a lot of leadership. We're reading one right now with our staff called The Servant Leader. And the principles, I would think, are what anybody that wrote a Christian sales book, it's just the principles. It's the principles of integrity. It's the principles of a character. It's the principles of humility, that I don't think there's any tactics. I mean, there's sales tactics, but just take that into the sales skills and you have what you have. Now that's scarier because, again, you have to maneuver that somehow to still be like, okay, here's the truth of what I'm selling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And essentially that's what I had to do in auto and home insurance, right? Of just, hey, I can beat you or I can't.
Yeah.
And I had to come to the realization that, hey, God, I'm going to do this with as much integrity and character as I can. I'm going to care about the people that I'm talking to. Well, now different for me than maybe you is, if I got them as a client, they're my clients now. They're my long-term portfolio, right?
Yeah.
So I want to know about them. I want to care for them. My other motivation was, hey, my church is right down the street, right? And I'd love for you, if you don't have a church, I wouldn't say this every time, but man, I wanted to build relationships for the right reasons as well. So, but all it was integrity. And man, there's sometimes where the big deal was right in front of me. And it's like, that's where the rubber meets the road. Hey, are you going to, push this a little bit and walk outside or just toe that line of integrity? Or are you going to stay faithful and say, dude, what you got there, I can't beat, man.
Yeah.
Knowing God will take care of the rest. And the rest sometimes was a year later. Hey, our rates just went up. I love the way that you took care of me and were honest. Let's talk again.
Yeah. I think big piece that, and I don't know if I do this, and I could probably talk to God in my quiet time and figure out and feel that conviction if I am doing. But big thing for me has been having the servant mindset. So if I go in and my intentions are to serve that person.
Yeah.
Because we've heard story and story again where they go out, they try to find the top price. The top price is the bad actors.
Yeah.
And they keep their property for 3 to 6 months or however long it takes, and then they can't actually execute on getting it done. And a lot of these people, like, their pain grows and grows and grows. So what I've adapted into my, I wouldn't say pitch, just my sales philosophy would be, servant. And then I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be honest with you right up front. I'm going to just be brutally honest. If it works for us, that's great. If it doesn't, it's not going, like, I feel like once I adopted that, like, business does come more and more. I don't feel like I'm not pushing for a deal because I'm doing things the right way and I'm actually serving people. And when I wasn't, because I was in life insurance before I got into real estate, and I fell flat on my face in life insurance. It was very similar to your story.
Yeah.
It was like the beginning of my faith journey, and it was all within God's plan. He brought me out because of the things that he was going through.
Yeah.
And I was new in my faith, and I had a lot of good things that my pastor from California had taught me. I came out here and I was like, I need to dive into a church. So I dove into a church, and, Bobby and I started going to the church, to Two Rivers.
Yeah.
But I got down to a point where I was 25 grand in debt, $500 in my account, and I was making a lot of money through insurance. Well, what I thought was a lot of money through insurance. And I was not doing it ethically. I was given not a great product, but I was good at sales, and it didn't work. And I look back at it. It was God protecting me because I could have.
You could have doubled down.
I could have been a greasy salesman and just kept going and really, really got after it in the insurance realm. But
you have the looks for that. You don't have the heart for that. So that's a good thing.
But I think once I adopted those principles, just those two simple principles. And I know we've talked about pretty much everything today, but it's been bouncing all over. It's been great conversation, probably the best we've had. But
it's that old adage, guys. We just talked about it at our marriage night. Or either one of you?
I was there. That was great night.
Where we talked? Oh no, it wasn't there. It was on the conflict resolution sermon of this simple phrase that has saved me so many times through so many different avenues that I run up against and that human beings run up against, of the whole adage of do the next right thing.
Yeah.
Do the next right thing. And this is where faith, right? I'm actually preaching on faith this Sunday, right? Do you really have faith in God? Like, it's easy to sing about, it's easy to preach about from my perspective, it's easy to talk about, but when the rubber meets the road, do you really trust him with your business? If you really think this is where you're supposed to be, right? Do you really trust him in your marriage and raising kids, all of these areas that are difficult? The question to ask over and over again is, man, do the next right thing. What is the next right thing? I don't know in your situation. You've got to seek that out, or sometimes it's black and white. If it's black and white, now you just have to have the courage and the faith to step in that and know you do it biblically, the next right thing. God will take care of the rest of that. He already promises that, to give us everything that we need to live a spiritual life. To me is, okay, our part in that is, it's not sitting back in our lazy boy and grace and just hoping God does all the work. No, there's a partnership here. And the good news is we're yoked together with Jesus, and a yoke, he's the big ox. We're the small ox, right?
Yeah.
He's going to carry the weight, but we still have to make the decisions. That's where the choice comes in to do the next right thing.
Yeah.
So I'm encouraged to hear that, and obviously would encourage you guys in business to continue that route, man.
Yeah. That's what we're trying to do for sure.
It's good.
Okay, so like Gerrard said, we did bounce around, but great conversation. I mean, this has been phenomenal. So when you usually look at a testimony, there's problem, solution, which is Jesus, and then outcome. Yeah. So obviously now you're the lead pastor of Two Rivers. I've been to a lot of churches. I've lived in a lot of states. I was in the military, bounced around, went to a lot of places. There's something different about Two Rivers. Right? Like the Holy Spirit like moves in that building, the people, the vulnerability. So as you've kind of walked us through your journey. Yeah. And I'm sure there's more that, you linked back in with Ron and all that stuff. And, but where you're at now, like from that guy that walked into that Baptist church, like how is God transform you, and what is that led to? Like, what's the results of that?
Yeah, great question. So what do we have? About 20 years removed from that, 21 years removed from that. A lot of life, man. A lot of small testimonies along the way too, right? Like, I don't think you meant this, but it's, your first conversion testimony, and then there's all these other testimonies along the way. Yeah. Again, I could sit here for hours. You guys could tell them, I could tell them. Yeah. I think been at Two Rivers now for 9 years, sitting under Ron Cathcart's now, not only teaching from the pulpit, from his leadership behind the scenes and developed, and what I learned from Rick, my still mentor to this day, now lives in Atlanta, Georgia, and Ron Cathcart is, we talked about it earlier, is just transparency and vulnerability. And these are two manly men, especially Ron, right? He's a hunter. He's a motorcycle driver, a rider, and he's a lover of sports. And the guy is on stage what he's off stage. Yeah. And I just got to watch that. And then I got to watch him see it behind the scenes and say, man, this guy really is the real deal. I want to be that, right? And I already had some experience with Rick and falling on my face. My pastor I worked under at Creekside in Warrenton was much like that as well. So I've been very fortunate to have that for quite some time. And I don't know if this is the question, but it's helped me in every area of my life, as a husband, as a father, as a coach, right? As a pastor, now lead pastor, as a friend, to just understand the value of my weakness is his strength. And I know that's an easy Bible verse to quote, but man, really, I am so weak in so many ways where I think I am strong. And the more that I think I'm strong, the more I need to recognize, no, I'm weak and that I'm strong because of him. And again, that sounds so Bible and so cliche, but I think that's just the biggest lesson is, I always say it this way, humility is the greatest characteristic that we could ever possess, because from it flows every other great characteristics. Humility. And humility, the challenge is not something often we can just bring into our own life. Yeah. It's something that we have to either be beat down to be humbled, and or humility is found in your walking closeness with Jesus Christ. The closer I am connected to Jesus Christ through my quiet time, through my small groups, through my encounters, the more I'm just humbled. It's the opposite, right? The greatest gifts of God are not on the top shelf. They're on the bottom shelf. And we often think, man, the higher I climb, the more of God I'll get. No, the lower you stoop, the more of God and Jesus Christ and the whole power of the Holy Spirit they'll have inside you. So I'm just humble. I really mean that. This is not false humility to be a pastor. I'm humbled to be a pastor that has gotten the privilege to work under a guy like Ron Cathcart for these last 9 years. I'm humbled to be able to succeed him and be the new lead pastor. Like I don't take that for granted. I'm humbled to be the husband that I am, to have my wife for 20 years. I'm humbled to have God to call on me to parent my 4 children. It's hard. It's really, really hard. All of those things that I just said are really, really hard. And it's easy to mask that I'm okay at times. And sometimes you have to, right? Depending upon the context of where you're at. But I'm just a humbled human being, man, that I hope I don't have to keep going through really hard things to keep being humbled. I hope I can just get that through just desiring Jesus more and more and God maturing me. But I don't know if that answered your question. You said, coming back, one thing, I know that's more of a generic answer. I'm just a more humbled, you could say beat down guy, but that's okay. I'm a beat down guy that needed to be beat down, and still gonna have my rise of pride from time to time, and unfortunately gonna need to be beat down by life or another human being, and maybe my wife, who's my biggest mirror and person that has shaped me more than anybody else in this world. And your wife will be that for you as well if you allow her to. But humility, I think, is the characteristic that I can look back and just say God has had to. Yeah. If again, if I'm interested in building my kingdom, I don't really care about humility. But if I'm really interested and you're interested in building his kingdom, you've got to find a way, as Paul says, to clothe yourself in humility regularly.
Yeah. So, and that's a big part of dying to yourself daily. Right. And you're right. I mean, that's the almost minute by minute, day by day, week by week, struggle, because it's not in our DNA. It's not in our human. It's not in our flesh to be like, we want to be prideful,
known, and people to know us, and likes, and all of the things that we get so wrapped up into. Some are better than others. Is that it? Like some struggle less with pride than others, but us men, man, that's at the core of every one of our issues and problems. Yeah.
So we like to leave folks with this last question. Yep. Because obviously, what were our intentions here? If somebody's listening, maybe they don't have a relationship with Christ, or maybe they're a little bit lukewarm. Yeah. What would be your advice to that person?
That's lukewarm, or that's
maybe you can
newer
give a
Christian, or
to kind of both. Like,
I think I just gave it. Like, again, I stand by what I said. The greatest humility that you could ever possess, or this greatest characteristic, is humility. Think about it. Every other great characteristic that people want in life stems from humility. Like the trueness of that characteristic, all the fruits of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. I think I missed one in there. All of that is going to be given to you more, which is deep down what we desire. We want that connection with the Holy Spirit, and what the fruit that comes out of that, to be able to live on purpose, which is to bring people into the kingdom of God and help them mature. All of that is going to come from stooping lower and lower and lower, and recognizing who you are in light of a holy, 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 perfect, grace-filled, loving God. I am nothing. Jesus said it. Apart from him, I have and can do nothing. And again, it's easy to say it. It's harder to believe it, and even harder to live it out. So what do? You have to have a reality check, man, of how prideful. And it's hard because, again, prideful people don't really understand how prideful they are.
Yeah.
And we're all prideful. Don't get me wrong, but really prideful people have a hard time doing that. It's still something I struggle with. So I'm not on the other side of that.
Right.
But humility, and again, you recognize that the closer you walk with Jesus Christ, because he is light, and in light, darkness has to flee. So you want that darkness, you want it to come to light, you spend some time with Jesus Christ in the quiet place, and you let him speak to the hidden and secret places of your life. I don't know if that helped.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Well, Nick, I know we ran a little bit long, but man, that was an awesome conversation.
No, thank you guys.
I really
I'm
appreciate
humbled.
you coming on here and just, opening up. And we talked about vulnerability so many times, and, that was on display for you today. So we're grateful for that. And if you're listening and, you got something out of this, hopefully we've led you in the direction to, look at Jesus for answers, right? If you have any questions, you can always reach out. Nick, if people had questions for you and maybe they wanted to, explore things, where could they find more about you?
Yeah, they can call the church, Two Rivers Church. They can email nickT@tworiverschurch.com or info@tworiverschurch.com.
Awesome.
That would be the greatest way. Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Well, cool. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you.
Thanks for tuning into The Knock. If this story moved you or made you think, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs hope. Follow us on social media at The Knock Podcast for more content. And remember, God is always knocking. The question is, will you answer?